Back in May of 2023, it was revealed that the Dead by Daylight community was getting their first ever spin-off story game based in the world of Dead by Daylight. This was exciting news because this finally meant that Behavior was starting to branch out to other companies to expand their brand. This was the first of 3 games to be announced, and possibly the biggest. At this time of the announcement, the only spin-off game we got was Hooked on You, which was poorly received since it was a dating sim. Sing of Frank Stone was made by the talented gaming company Supermassive, which made hit games such as Until Dawn, the entire Dark Pictures anthology series, and The Quarry. So people had their expectations super high, and rightfully so. This is the synopsis of the game. The shadow of Frank Stone looms over Cedar Hills, a town forever altered by his violent past. As a group of young friends are about to discover, Stone's blood-soaked legacy cuts deep, leaving scars across families, generations, and the very fabric of reality itself. I recently just had the privilege to play through the game, and let me tell you, they absolutely delivered. This game should be studied with the amount of fan service this game has. Every corner you turn, every path you take, there is a reference waiting to be discovered. From the trinkets, to the relics, to the articles and excerpts about characters from Dead by Daylight, to even the sound effects used in the game. I want to talk about this today because I've never seen a game be this loyal to its source material. As I speak about this, I will be going into heavy spoiler territory to tell you about the fan service, so this is a massive spoiler warning. If you have not played the game yet and you are planning to do so, I suggest you leave this video and come back once you've played it. With all that out of the way, let's get into the video. This story is split up into 3 time periods on the same timeline: the 1960s, the 1980s, and the 2024 present day. Perhaps the time period with the most references to Dead by Daylight has got to be the 2024 time period. The location you are in is chock full of them, from paintings of killers and people related to killers, to dioramas of killers, to perk icons scattered across the house,
Behind the mystery door. Do I even want to know? Maybe it's a pattern, but I can't make heads or tails of it. Or heads and heads. And heads.
and even the survivor's theme from Dead by Daylight.
Do you play? A little.
Across the whole game, there are little trinkets that can be collected, up to 12, and these trinkets are references to certain add-ons and add-on adjacent from Dead by Daylight. They reference killers such as the Doctor, the Huntress, the Hag, the Spirit, and even the Twins. These were super cool to see, and it even gave you an achievement if you collected all of them. Same thing with the relics. These were little killer dolls you can find in the game, again up to 12. These are straight up direct callbacks to many killers of DBD, such as the Hillbilly, the Clown, the Wraith, the Legion, and even Frank Stone himself at the very end of the game, and he's called the Champion. You can find Huntress's mask twice, along with Plague's incense, a book about the Dredge, and a Trickster music box. In the 80s, there is a part where you go to a curiosity shop, and there are a buttload of references in this shop. Wraith's weapon,
I don't know what that is, but it looks painful.
Smiley Pin add-on for Legion, a pocket mirror, and even a crow statuette can be spotted in the shop. The drugstore that the kids go to across the street in the 80s is called Calhoun's After Peace Tonic Pharmacy, which is a reference to the Clown's power, which is also called After Peace Tonic. In the pharmacy, you can find a medkit, frequently used in the DBD trials, along with firecrackers, which you can use in the story if you get them. Even certain words and sentences are callbacks to DBD. Death is not an escape, condemned, mangled, killers and survivors, the black veil, and trial. Across the game, there are a couple generators that the cast must fix to continue in the game, which if you know anything about DBD, you know that the generators are the main focus for survivors to escape. Yes, it is a bit on the nose, but it's still really cool to see that they implemented them somehow into the game. I am not making this up, they even implemented the sound effect for picking up items in DBD.
Could help with the generator.
And the sound when loading into a match at the very end of the game. Some maps get mentioned, like Larry's Memorial Institute and Coldwind Farm in passing, but they don't stay on the topic of maps too long. Hooks obviously are a part of this game. They are the main focus for killers in DBD, so of course they had to implement them somehow. Even scratch marks are shown during a dream sequence, and the entity's tendrils can be shown across the game in many ways. Perhaps the coolest, yet super subtle reference / callback comes at the very end of the game. If nobody survives in the 2024 branch, at the very end at the campfire, you see Dwight Fairfield, Meg Thomas, Claudette Morrell, and Jake Park, the 4 original survivors. This ending varies, depending on who and how many people get out. For example, my first playthrough, I only got Sam out, so Jake did not show up at the end, only Dwight, Meg, and Claudette. I thought this was super awesome and a nice detail, because there are only 4 survivors per trial in DBD, so only 4 can be shown total. One of the main things about this game that is directly connected to DBD is the entity. Its role in Frankstone is a bit backseated, getting help from one Augustine Lieber, one of the villains of the casting of Frankstone. She is the reason the entity is there in the casting of Frankstone. She wants the entity to take Frank into the entity's realm. And of course, with any villain ever, she wants power. She believed the entity would bring her immense power for giving it Frankstone, but the entity did not play nice or do deals, so it killed Augustine, taking Frank all for its own gain. God, how many times did I just say entity?
Nice.
I'm sure there are so many things that I missed, but those are the things that I found in my multiple runs. This game is truly a love letter with a kiss on it. You can see that they put a lot of work into it, and it totally shows. I've seen nothing but raving reviews and immense respect for the casting of Frankstone. I'm sure there are people out there who don't think the game was good or necessary, but that's bound to happen with any new game release. Personally, I think this game, story-wise, was good. It was nothing phenomenal, but it definitely was not horrible. I still think Until Dawn was the best of its genre. The only problem I have is that the title of the game mentions Frankstone, but he's completely absent for about 70% of the game. I understand that the prologue shows where he ended up, and the ending of the game shows him at his fullest potential, but during the middle, he's just nowhere to be found. He only gets brought up multiple times when the 80s squad are at the steel mill. He also starts to show up around chapter 6, and that's about halfway through the game, but he's not really prominent until the end. They really want you to pay attention to Augustine and figure out why she wants Frank and why she is trying to attract the entity, which is fine. I saw somebody on Twitter say that this story deserves to be made into a movie. But let's focus on the confirmed DBD movie in the works first. With all that out of the way, I want to know your opinions on the casting of Frankstone. Did you like it? Did you hate it? If this was your first experience with anything DBD related, I would love to know what you thought. So please, sound off in the comments. Let's get a conversation started, shall we? Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. All of my socials are below, and this is Michael, signing off.